From Montana's news leader, this is the MTN 10 o'clock news.
Good evening and thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Russ Riesinger. Results are in from a study that looked for ways to improve the Billings Police Department. That study, conducted by the Center for Public Safety Management, found more than 100 recommendations to make police services in Billings more efficient. The police department study looked at call volumes, staffing levels, and structure, along with location of law enforcement facilities. Now, the hope is that the city council and police department leaders can use the study to improve the Billings law enforcement in coming months and years. Q2's Mitch Legge joins us now with a recap of tonight's city council meeting.
Members of the Billings City Council heard Monday night that a major challenge for Billings police officers is a lack of jail space. One of the many aspects of Billings law enforcement looked at in a study done by the Center for Public Safety Management found that the Yellowstone County Jail is routinely overcrowded. The county jail is used by both the Billings Police and Yellowstone County Sheriffs, the overcrowding of which creates negative impacts for crime in the community and the court system. Anecdotal evidence in the study found one case of a local individual with 52 warrants for mostly nuisance crimes who couldn't be booked into jail due to the lack of space. Switching gears to staffing, the study found that the police department could benefit from police service officers. Service officers are paid less than sworn officers and can do things like collect burglary reports or non-injury crash reports. The service officers could benefit the city by taking some tasks off of the regular officers' plates at a cheaper cost to the city. Of about 100 recommendations made in the study, Billings Police Chief Rich St. John said he's already started on some that don't cost any money. St. John said he's started work on centralizing the department's data entry computer software. As well, he started shifting the organizational structure of the department. The Center for Public Safety Management study didn't look at the cost to implement any of the changes recommended. City staff hope that the study will guide the City Council on future policy decisions related to the addition of more police officers or the investment in police facilities. Reporting in Billings, Mitch Legge, MTN News.
Thanks, Mitch. The council also heard the results from a survey looking to find out how satisfied citizens are with the police department. Generally, the survey found Billings residents trust the police and think highly of officers, but on the other hand, the general perception is the city does have a problem with crime. More now on that huge multi-vehicle crash just east of Billings Saturday. They involved nearly 40 vehicles. Tonight we talk with Montana Highway Patrol to find out how it all transpired and how those involved can still help investigators. Q2's Shaquille Cozart has more.
According to Montana Highway Patrol, a confirmed 30 vehicles had to be towed away from Interstate 90 near Lockwood after a multiple car pileup Saturday afternoon.
Others involved in the crash were asked to drive their vehicle away from the scene if possible.
There were some people that were able to drive, their vehicles were still operational. Those people that were closer to the front of the thing, if they were able to drive away, then we had them move out of the way right away so that we could get emergency vehicles, wreckers, and things into the crash scene.
Captain Edgell says that during the winter months, accidents in this area and on other bridge decks are common due to freezing temperatures.
This was kind of the perfect storm. You just had, it was only a 30 or 40 minute blast of snow that hit us. The temperatures were just right. The bridge deck froze. Had one or two people that had crashed at the very west end of the bridge. It sounds to me like maybe they had gotten out of their vehicles checking on each other, and then other people started to panic when you see two vehicles in the middle of the road. People are outside. They started trying to slow, and one thing led into another. And
Edgell says they are fortunate to have a low number of injuries given the magnitude of the pileup.
Some people were transported to the hospital. I believe that there was only the two teenagers that were knocked off the bridge that were actually hospitalized. I think everybody else was transported, treated, and released.
Captain Edgell says that Montana Highway Patrol is still hoping to hear from a number of individuals whose vehicle was damaged in the accident but were still able to leave the scene. In order to contact them, email khader@mt.gov. Reporting at home in Billings, I'm Shaquille Cozart with MTN News.
All right, thank you, Shaquille. Edgell says it's not yet clear how much damage was caused. However, he says the vehicles that were towed would not otherwise have been able to make it off the highway. On the COVID-19 front, the virus has claimed 8 more Montanans in the last 24 hours. One of those deaths here in Yellowstone County, where a man in his 80s passed away at a Billings hospital. 237 Yellowstone County residents have now lost their lives due to COVID-19. The other 7 deaths reported out of Flathead County today, bringing the state's total number of deaths to 1,378. Tonight, the state reports just under 1,600 active cases, while more than 97,000 Montanans have now recovered. 28 million COVID-19 cases have been confirmed across the U.S. to date, along with more than 514,000 deaths. But now 3 vaccines are being distributed as part of the effort to beat back the pandemic. Plus, debate rages tonight on the COVID-19 spending bill. Madeline Rivera has the latest.
Johnson & Johnson is shipping 4 million doses of its new coronavirus vaccine this week. It's the 3rd approved for emergency use in the U.S. and the first that requires only 1 shot.
We're getting these doses out the door right away to ensure vaccines get into arms as quickly as possible.
So far, over 50 million Americans have received at least 1 COVID vaccine dose. The head of the CDC is warning that the pandemic is far from over.
Now is not the time to relax the critical safeguards that we know can stop the spread of COVID-19 in our communities.
But some states are easing their coronavirus restrictions. Massachusetts eliminated restaurant capacity rules on Monday and gave theaters a green light to reopen.
Here on Capitol Hill, all eyes are on the Senate as it debates President Biden's nearly $2 trillion COVID-19 spending bill.
The American people sent us here with a job to do, to help the country through this moment of extraordinary challenge.
The measure includes funding for vaccine distribution, coronavirus testing, and $1,400 stimulus checks for most Americans. It would also provide aid to cash-strapped state and local governments. Republicans say it contains too much unnecessary spending.
House Democrats rammed through the bonanza of partisan spending they're calling a pandemic rescue package. Only Democrats voted for it. Both Republicans and Democrats voted against it.
The first vote on the bill could come as soon as Wednesday. Madeline Rivera, CBS News, Capitol Hill.
Today, advisors to former President Trump said he and First Lady Melania Trump were both vaccinated before they left the White House in January. Here in Montana, the state is expected to receive around 8,700 doses of the Johnson & Johnson COVID-19 vaccine later this week. Governor Greg Gianforte anticipates counties will begin distributing those doses next week. As of today, the state reports roughly 8% of Montana's total population has now been vaccinated. Since it is a single shot, the J&J vaccine will significantly increase the number of people considered fully vaccinated. All right, Chief Meteorologist Ed McIntosh joining us now. And Ed, pretty nice start to March today after what turned out to be a pretty cold February.
That's right, cold and for many very snowy as well. Let's go ahead and take a look at some of the numbers for around Billings. The average temperature was running 13.7 degrees below average if you just averaged out the entire month. Snowfall, a little over 17 inches. That's over 11 inches above the average. The warmest day was on Groundhog Day. The coldest day, 22 below on February 14th, Valentine's Day. We went through a period of very warm weather, then the heavy snow started to move in. Some bitter cold, strong winds ended the month, so it pretty much just figured on which week we were talking about. But overall, for the month, those temperatures across eastern Montana were very chilly. Come back and take a look at a nice warm-up in a few minutes.
Thanks, Ed. It is true that Billings is experiencing a warm-up, but us Montanans know that weather can always turn, and when it does, a Montana military family will be there to warm the heads and hands of anyone who needs it. As Q2's Andrea Lutz reports, this act is also warming hearts in the process.
It wasn't too long ago, Billings was a frigid sight. Let this video from a week of sub-zero temperatures in February jog your memory.
We'd give the shirt off of our backs and really teaching our kids to give back when you're able.
Brittany Rains and her husband grew up in Montana.
We went to MSUB, and then my husband joined the Army, and now we travel worldwide,
teaching kindness and generosity to their 6 children.
Really, we've lived mostly in cold areas, and so we started in Alaska, actually.
Started leaving hats and scarves around town with a note attached. letting whoever finds them know staying warm is a personal right.
Mostly because we just noticed there was a large population living on the streets and wanted a simple way to give back.
And soon their hand-delivered tokens of warmth grew into what's now called the Warm-Up Project.
You know, we never see who picks them up, and that we just have to have a lot of faith that they're being used and the right people that need them are picking them up.
With other military families chipping in too.
People move from these cold areas down to the south, and then they don't need their hats and gloves anymore. And so they donate them, and then we turn around and wash them, and we just handwrite the tags ourselves and go hang them up.
Brittany says the hope is that others will pay it forward.
We never know what kind of day somebody's having, so it's not for a targeted audience anymore. It's more about just making a difference in someone's day. It's just as easy for me to walk out of my house and maybe have underestimated how cold it was going to be.
So when the world seems harsh and cold, it's often the generosity of others that keeps us warm. In Billings, Andrea Lutz, MTN News.
Thanks, Andrea. The Warm Up Project is looking for what it calls change agents to help spread the message and warm clothing around the country. And you can visit the Warm Up Project Facebook page to learn how to get involved. New direct seasonal flight out of Billings will make it a breeze to get to the Windy City. Beginning June 3rd of this year, American Airlines is adding a direct flight between Billings and Chicago O'Hare. That flight will operate daily, leaving Billings at 1:45 in the afternoon, landing in Chicago at 5:45. The return flight leaves Chicago at 11:50 in the morning, with an arrival time in Billings scheduled for 2 p.m. That service will run through September 7th of 2021. Now, one of the two young bald eagles recently rescued near Shepherd is back in her natural habitat tonight. Ready to take flight, the young eagle was released in the area she was found in back in early February. As you can see, after a few hops, she spread her wings again to soar. Shepherd couple, Carrie and Julie Betts, originally found that eagle cold and malnourished. 2 weeks later, they found a young male eagle face down in the snow, suffering from lead poisoning. The Betts transported both raptors to the Montana Raptor Conservation Center in Bozeman, where they've been recovering. Today, the young healthy female was handed over to the Betts in Reed Point before heading back to Shepherd. An emotional Julie Betts says this eagle is ready to take on the world now.
Simply put, is that it seems as though whenever I personally am going through a difficult time, they'll show up in my life, and when I watch them, they are so confident and determined and very strong, and for some reason I can absorb that strength.
According to Becky Keene of the Montana Raptor Center, she says the male's still recovering, but will also soon return to the skies. All right, still ahead on the MTN 10 o'clock news here on Q2. Nearly 140 bills in one marathon day at the Montana legislature as lawmakers rush to finish before the halfway point. We'll have details. Then a little later in sports, the Lady Bulldogs of Hardin not only have skill on their side, but luck as well as they look for back-to-back state titles. Keep it here.